Micro-sized figures for micro-sized fun. At least they look a little better than those Micromasters did. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. And a ways back I had bought a case of the Blokees Defender figures. And that video went over pretty well, so we're going to do a few more. This one in particular is the first wave of the figures. I had to buy it this way so that I would ensure I could do Devastator back in March. So, we're going to crack this bad boy open and I'm going to show you everybody that it came with. Of course, I already have built them, but I want to show you as an added bonus, if you bought it by the case, you get a large collectible card that features all of the robot figures that are in the set. And the back just has the insignias and such. A case like this comes with 12 figures. Now, figures and vehicles, because some of them come in their vehicle modes. And 2 of the figures in each case are to have special variants that are put in at random. When you buy a case like this, you are guaranteed that one of them will be one of the variants. And in this case, seeing as it's the first box, the variants are of Optimus and Megatron. As they have a special galaxy type, which is more common, and a special armor type, which includes other accessories. As in the case of the armor of the galaxy type, they just get a different paint job compared to the regular one. And we'll show you that here in just a moment. Alright, in the first wave of this release, we got 8 figures and 4 vehicles. Now, by coincidence, all the vehicles are for characters that are already in this set that would be diverged from in later sets. Now, front and center, we'll take a look at the figures. All the figures have the same standard articulation due to the way they're constructed. You can turn their heads from side to side and they can look up and down. They are on a ball joint. The arms go out about so far and the arms can be rotated at the shoulder all the way, unless they've got kibble that'll block it, like Prowl and Thundercracker back there do. You can bend their arms at the elbow 90 degrees, and they do have a swivel at the bicep. So the figures would have G.I. Joe battle grip, but they don't have weapons big enough for that. You can twist them at their hips, so they can do some dance moves for you. You can spread their legs apart into a full splits. They do have only a very minuscule thigh cut. You can raise their legs at the hip. Slipped right out of my hand. You can raise the leg at the hip 90 degrees, and you can bend the leg at the knee 90 degrees. So all in all, you get some good articulation in these small scale figures. And of course, you have to put them together. And during this original wave, they come with a standard sheet of instructions with everybody. All the figures pretty much go together reasonably in the same method. The vehicles are kind of self-explanatory. At any rate, we'll start looking at the figures. The first one we'll take a look at, naturally, will be Optimus Prime. And this is the regular version of Optimus. And it is done up in his G1 style. And for accessories, it includes an oversized version of what is to be his ionic blaster. And then next up is Megatron, and for him I have the special armor version. So he's got somewhat more of a shinier appearance than what the regular one would have. But all in all, I do like this one, and of course, for an accessory, he has his fusion cannon. And since his arm can be rotated in this sense, you can put him in the classic pose. That's kind of cute. And then next up on the figures, we have Bumblebee. Bumblebee is listed as a brilliant color scheme, which pretty much means they gave him a shinier color scheme than what others have. The brilliant color scheme would later be changed over for being figures that are transparent, that have transparent plastic, which at this stage they call them glittering. But that would be dropped, probably to keep the expense down. And of course, for an accessory, Bumblebee has his laser gun. And then next up we have Prowl. And Prowl does have some nice details on him, because you can barely make it out here on the door, but he does have the police insignia that his Generation 1 toy had, which was done more at the time for a Japanese police car. But of course he was a Japanese model police car, as he was a Datsun instead of the Fords or Dodges that are more common here in America. And of course, Prowl has the added bit on his back that gives him his doors. And for an accessory, he has his gun. Readjust his legs so that he will stand up properly. And then next up we have Scavenger. And it's hard to think of the Constructicons as an intimidating force when they're this size, because he looks more cute than anything else. But he does have his steam shovel scoop on his back, and as you can see, it does have its articulation. It has 2 points of articulation on it, so that's kind of neat. And of course, like all the others, he has a gun. And then next up we have is Thundercracker. And he would be recolored, likely over the course of several of these waves, to represent some of the other Seekers. I do like the fact that they chose Thundercracker first over Starscream, because, I mean, this one had enough iconic characters in the form of Prime, Megatron, and Bumblebee, so they didn't drown it out in the popular characters on the first wave. So that's always good. And of course, Thundercracker has his blasters mounted on his shoulders. Then next up we have Sideswipe, and Sideswipe is done up in his colors from the Shattered Glass comic. For the benefit of those of you who are new here, Shattered Glass was a comic book issue that was done a number of years back that did a mirror universe telling of the Transformers saga. borrowing mainly from the established way a mirror universe is set up on Star Trek. Whereas everything is their opposite. Like, for starters, the Federation was instead known as the Terran Empire. And all of our traditional heroes were depicted as the bad guys. So, even though Sideswipe is still an Autobot, the Autobots in the Shattered Glass universe are the oppressors, and the Decepticons are the freedom fighters. It's nice to see that they touched upon some of the different lore, and this was also something that was done cheap because they could recolor Sideswipe later into his G1 colors and call it a day. So that's kind of smart. And of course, for accessories, he has his gun, but he also has his missile launcher. Stay standing, Sideswipe. And then lastly, we have Ironhide, which they list as in glittering colors, but this would become brilliant later on. And he is made of translucent plastic, so you can see through him, which gives an interesting look. And of course, each set also comes with a commemorative coin. There are 3 different coins in the series, and Ironhide included the coin in this wave. And here is the coin, and it features the head of Optimus Prime. According to the box, the others could feature Megatron's head or Optimus in his truck mode. And then on the back side, you just get the Blokees logo. And then now we'll bring in the vehicles. So we get 2 Autobot vehicles. And we get 2 Decepticon vehicles. We'll go ahead and start with the Decepticons, just due to the fact that you're all already aware of this one. They put in Scavenger. And then they would, in the further sets, would include more Constructicons. And then they sold another kit that would include the parts to build Devastator. And that looks like that'll be a continuing trend with Blokees, as we are going to get Bruticus this year. He is now available. Scavenger, of course, you can rotate him on the treads, so he can be facing in odd directions. And the scoop arm does have some articulation to it. The base doesn't have too much, but the midsection and the bucket do have it. And for some strange reason, they allowed Scavenger to include his gun mounted on there, but none of the others have their guns mounted, so rather strange. We got Thundercracker here in his jet mode. And I do like how he turned out this way, because, I mean, I'd be looking forward to seeing how Starscream and Skywarp turn out. But this is definitely kind of neat, and he does swoosh pretty good for a small-sized figure. Since they did Bumblebee in a glittering, in his brilliant pattern, they decided to put him as glittering in his vehicle mode. So we get him as a see-through transparent vehicle. This isn't something that carried on. Probably for the best, because really don't care for the car having that. But of course, he's also not quite resembling a Volkswagen Beetle or a Chevy Camaro. So Bumblebee kind of looks a little weird in this. And of course he comes with his gun, and it is mounted in a way that it can be raised or lowered. So that's kind of neat. And then lastly, we get Optimus Prime in his classic mode. And I know some were disappointed that he doesn't come with the trailer, but they did in one of the later sets. You will see on this channel, they did make the trailer for him. So the trailer is available, but he does include the little command section that was inside the trailer. So you can raise it up and make it look like that he's got a turret. Plus, the top bars can be rotated around so that it looks like a battle platform. You can take another one of the characters. We'll just use Prowl because the instructions show Prowl on it. Get him up and then rotate his hands. So that his hands will go into the bars here, go over the bars. Thankfully, he has enough articulation he can do that. And then you can have it look like that he's riding on Optimus Prime into battle. Rather silly looking thing, but it does give you another option to display him as, because I know when I did Wave 4 of them, I did show that Rodimus Prime had a similar feature on him, so that's kind of neat. Although I think most people would opt for getting the trailer for Prime and displaying him that way. So we get to my thoughts. What do I think of this first wave? I kind of liked how this first wave came out. It included a few of the major characters that we all know and love, so that's always nice. And it didn't saturate it with all of them. I mean, yeah, that's going to disappoint some fans, but you can't please all the fans all of the time, as Disney has learned with a lot of their attempts to please many of their fans. But this does things right, and it sets out things in motion for how the future waves would come out. Granted, it does shift a bit to include more alternate modes and less robot modes, but to each their own on that. They are nice, small little collectibles, and since they do have a lot of posability on them, you can arrange them however you'd choose. So they are a lot of fun. They're not very hard to put together, and I think they're worth it. At any rate, that's my look at the first wave of the Blokees Defender class Transformers. I hope you all enjoyed it. Please do remember that if you love the content we feature on this channel, I would enjoy some likes, shares, comments, and subscriptions. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.